Hi everyone! In today's video, I'm going to show you Entity Framework Extensions library in depth. We will explore a big number of customizable options we have in this library. Entity Framework Extensions library, as you know, is famous for its fastest bulk operations in the market. It supports various database providers and provides various methods for bulk write operations, such as bulk insert, update, delete, merge, and synchronize. Let's explore three categories of column options. We will explore input, output, and ignore options. By specifying column input expression, you can specify a lambda and a list of fields that needs to be inserted. The other fields might be populated by the database. Also, each option contains an alternative option with specifying your input, output, and ignore names by a list of strings if these properties are known in the runtime. In the column output expression, you can specify which columns are returned from the insert, update, or whatever bulk operation you use. For our use case, it will be useful to specify the ignore on insert expression. And in this expression, we can specify values which are typically updated and not available during insertions. When we are doing another bulk operation such as bulk update, here I read 10 devices from our database and I update their name, status, and last seen options. In the bulk update and any other bulk methods, I can specify the options. For update operations, one of the most useful options is ignore on update expression. And here I can specify the columns that should not be updated. For example, registered add. Even if I change this value to some another value, it won't be updated in our database. Let's run this code and see how it works. Before insertion, let's explore the values we have in the database. You can see the following registered add dates. After running our bulk operation, let's refresh our database schema. As you can see, the registered add column was not updated, and the last seen and the name were updated. In the official documentation, you can explore all the available options for insert, for update, for merge, and for synchronize operations. These options save you a lot of time. Particularly, I want to mention options for synchronize. The synchronize method creates new entities that are not available in your database, update your existing entities, and delete entities from your database that are not present in the source list. And with the synchronize options, you can specify what subset of database rows you want to synchronize, so you don't touch the entire table. One of more useful options is coalesce expressions. They are available on update, merge, and synchronize bulk operations. When you specify a column for the coalesce expression, the entity framework extensions will keep the destination value in your database when the source value is null. So when we specify the serial number to null and try to update a list of our devices, we should keep the serial number at the current value in the database. After running this bulk update operation, we can refresh our database and we can see that our serial number hasn't changed and hasn't been set to null. Pretty useful. On the other hand, we have another option. It's called coalesce destination on update expression. When we specify this option, we will update our serial number only in the case we have null in our database. Our device will have only one nullable option, its configuration. Let's update our configuration to some value. And let's erase the configuration value in our database. As you can see in the database, we have the configuration set to null for the first device. Now let's update. After running bulk update method, we can refresh our database and see that our configuration was updated only for one device which had configuration set to null. Let's explore more options we have when updating our entities. By updating, I mean all update methods: bulk update, bulk merge, and bulk synchronize. The option I want to explore is called update matched and condition expression. For this expression, we specify a lambda and we can specify a list of properties. When performing an update expression, the update action will only be performed when the values in the source, our list, and the destination, our database, are equal. So when we update our 10 devices right from the database and we update the device type from 2 of our devices, we expect that we will update only 8 devices except the first 2. Let's debug and see this in action. Alright, here is our database and we'll update our device names. After running our update query, we can see that our device names were updated except the first 2. In what real-world use cases this option is particularly useful? In cases when you have a status field and when synchronizing data, you want to update only those entities that have the matched status. Also, this is particularly useful for dates, row versions, used for optimistic concurrency, and such Boolean columns such as locked and is deleted for soft deleted records. Another useful option we have is called update matched and one not condition expression. Here we specify the lambda as in the previous option, and we can specify few column names such as device type and, for example, serial number. In this case, entity framework extensions will perform update action only when at least one selected value, device type, or serial number in the source is different from our destination in the database. Let's explore few real-world examples for using this option, such as updating only important fields. For example, you can synchronize your products or users and you want to update if only the pricing fields were updated or some personal user information, skipping unnecessary fields. Also, you may be synchronizing a lot of audit fields, and you can configure to update only those fields when the modified date and the modified by properties were updated. Remember an include graph example we used previously to insert a graph of objects. We inserted devices with nested components. Let's explore a more complex example. When we read devices and their components from the database, and we update some properties of devices, and we can also update some properties from the components. And add 5 more devices. The bulk merge method will update the existing devices in the database and will insert the new ones. We can configure the include graph operation builder. And with bulk operation class from if4 extensions library, we can specify the generic type we want to check. For example, we can customize options for bulk operation for device and for component. And we can use all options we have previously explored. For example, we can specify the column primary key expression and use serial number from comparison for devices and use for components the name. Let's test this out. As a result, in the database, few columns were updated and we have 5 new devices inserted. if4 extensions library also provides various events. These events are divided into 2 categories: pre-events that occur before the bulk operation is executed, and the post event, which runs after the bulk operation is finished. The pre-events are useful for tasks like setting auditing fields, validating data, or even changing some properties. Post events are also useful for some auditing logging and updating in-memory entities after the database operation was completed. You can explore other available events in the official documentation. There are plenty of them. One of the best options I found in Ifcore's extensions library is auditing options, which are available for each bulk write method. Let's explore them in practice. In our example, when we perform a bulk merge of our devices, we can specify that we want to use audit. This audit is disabled by default as it can hurt the performance. We need to create a list of audit entries, which will be populated after the merge operation completes. Let's debug and see what we have in these options. After performing our bulk merge operation, we have 15 audit entries. For 10 devices we have updated, and 5 new devices we have inserted. Let's explore. As you can see, the first entity was updated. We have an action property. An action represents what type of action was performed: insert, update, or delete. We have a date property. We have some additional metadata. We have a table name. And the most interesting part is our list of entry items. For each column, we have an old value and a new value. When exploring some new devices that were inserted, as you can see, the action is actually insert. And in the values column, you can see that we had nulls, and now we have a new values. Audit options are very useful for debugging your complex bulk merge and bulk synchronize operations. And it can also serve as a ready mechanism for tracking and saving audit entries without requiring you to write this code manually. With Ifcore extensions, we have this functionality with just 2 lines of code, and later you can insert these audit entries in your database in the separate table. But keep in mind that using audit options can hurt performance, so use them wisely. In addition to audit options, we have login options. Let's create a string builder. And in the options, when performing bulk merge, we'll specify the log action. And we need to specify a delegate and append a line to our builder. Or in our case, just write the output to the console. As a result, you can explore Alice SQL run by Entity Framework Extensions Library. And as you can see, there were some created temporary tables that are used for our auditing. Another useful option we have here is result info, useful for our debugging. We need to create a result info object from bulk operations namespace and specify this option. After running our merge statement, we can explore this object. In this object, we have a result by table name, all affected tables, how many rows were affected, how many rows were inserted, deleted, updated, and soft deleted, which is pretty nice for debugging experience. We have explored one of the most important options in the Entity Framework Extensions library, and you can explore the rest of the options on your own. I just want to mention that in the documentation, in the bulk insert tab, you can find database provider specific options, such as few options for Oracle, Postgres, and for SQL bulk copy, which is used by SQL Server. Entity Framework Extensions library is a paid library, and you need a commercial license for production usage. However, you can download a free trial, and you can extend this trial each month by downloading the latest version. This is useful for testing if this library meets your project needs. For commercial usage, the time saved in development and the improved application performance typically pay for the license within the first months of use. As we have explored various options, that these options, in addition to bulk write operations, can save you hours and days of development. Thank you for your attention.